Hello and welcome. My name is Deb Swanson, and I'm Faculty Support Consultant here at UAGC. I am pleased to host this session, Gamified Imagine Communities to Create Shared Visions in the Online Learning. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with TLC-related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation. However, we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, please click the button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Now, I am pleased to introduce you to Stephanie Fink and Cheri Ketchum and their wonderful presentation. The floor is yours.
Uh, Good morning or good afternoon, or whoever or wherever you are, probably watching this as a video recording. Just a quick note about myself. I'm Stephanie Fink. I am the program chair for Social Sciences General Education with a joint appointment in the Liberal Arts degree program. That should tell you they have a fairly wide expanse of interests, and part of those interests are those that I share with Cheri in learning communities. And what we've done here is we've brought together our ideas and kind of almost a brainstorm that we'd like to do with you to talk about how we can use gamification to support creating online learning communities. So with that little bit, what we're looking at here, we started kind of riffed on the work of Benedict Anderson, who's known in history and social sciences and humanities for his work from 1983, where he defined an imagined community as a nation comprised of members who, though not physically connected, imagine themselves as part of a shared polity built around a collectively constructed identity. So this was mostly being talked about within nationalism circles, you might say, but over time, Anderson's definition has been used widely beyond the scope of understanding nationalism. More recently, the concept has extended to the online gaming community, where membership has been shown to shape social connection and foster the development of social capital. In these spaces, learners create their virtual intersecting identities to forge social bonds that promote positive experiences when joined by a collective sense of purpose. So what we've done here is we've started from Anderson's idea of imagined community and the way it's been taken up in the gaming community, and looked at these different interlocking areas where gamification has shown to be effective through fairly recent research, though this research of gamification and promoting engagement has a pretty long track record. So the main points are the enhancement of motivation, increasing persistence, improving participation, spurring engagement, and creating dynamic or social environments that help students stay motivated beyond just this sort of basic content of a classroom. So these things you can see, they don't necessarily follow a direct pattern, they are interconnected. So when you impact one area of the gamification circle of benefits, it often has spillover effects or enhances the other areas as well. So what we've started with is some of the research that's been done on using avatars as anchors for identity. So by creating an avatar of yourself, you can express your individuality. You can sort of express yourself in a safe space that's sort of maybe a little bit one removed from who you are in real life, but that takes on qualities of yourself that helps you to break out of a shell of feeling alone in an online environment. So by using gamification and in the context that we're talking about, the avatars exist in a home space where they can share their achievements and their goals. So it allows for a degree of personalization, yet also the creation of a shared vision and shared sense of motivation along the academic pathway that's enhanced with not just academic achievements, but a variety of competencies that have real world applications that students then express within the gamified space. So what we're trying to do here is create stories through symbols, using avatars and badges to create a sense of symbolic belonging that mark achievements, group identity, mutual support, and then the storytelling process through the use of avatars, badging, and goal tracking create this collective narrative that builds this imagined community that's unified by a shared sense of purpose. I'm going to kind of turn things over to Cheri now, who is going to share some of the research behind our conceptualization of this project. Cheri, are you taking it away on this slide, or would you like?
Yeah, well, you can go back to slide 3. That's where the references are listed.
No?
One
Here.
more.
Here we go. Okay.
No, one more.
Yep.
Wrong way. Sorry. Slide 3. So
that's here.
Slide 3 should be the circle with the 2 diamond rings and a heart in it.
All right.
Yeah, here it is. Okay. So you'll see at the bottom, it says references, Simsec and Yilmaz, Segool, and Chen. So at the end of the presentation, we have a full set, full bibliography of things people can read to learn a little bit more about research that's been done that has shown this can be successful. Many of the projects that were the basis of the research were based on games within the classroom, so a discrete game with a particular learning goal in mind, right? So you have a game that explains a concept or something. This is not the kind of game we're interested in. We're interested in creating more of a social game where we create a whole world for students to go into and explore, and they can join different groups. And it's a way to create like a symbolic representation of themselves and hopefully a space where they can actually network. So one piece of research I wanted to highlight is Chen, who wrote for the Western Governors. He works for the Western Governors University, which feels kind of like a comparable university. And what he found, which was interesting, is that these social games that he played around with a little bit in that universe were really good at enhancing motivation and fulfilling some social needs. But he said students were actually more interested in interacting with professors and mentors than other students. That's what it was. So I say that because if we do this, there's probably going to be an invitation to us all, to faculty and others, to be a part of that space because it feels like that is something important to them. But I will highlight that one of the other things that I think could happen here through the creation of badges and creating symbolic representations of people's progress is that we will invite students to both be cheerleaders for others as they move forward in the process and also be cheerleaders to others. They will also search for mentors who maybe have already gone through a class and earned a badge for that particular class so that they can get advice for them perhaps about what to do, what to avoid, etc. And just as a little background here, the reason that I ended up kind of falling into this topic and found it interesting is I was reading a lot of literature about student retention. And within that literature, people were saying, look, we can't do much about some of the primary reasons we lose students. We can't help with financial aid if they lose that. We can't help with family or economic emergencies. But what we can do is focus on creating a meaningful space for students where they can feel invested in the process and feel a real reward for each thing that they accomplish, right? And so this is a way to symbolically do this and hopefully motivate them to keep going as they see the real progress that they're making with each class. One of the things that I think there's 2 things that we don't, I think, do that well that we could do better, and this gamification thing can help. One is students are constantly on a treadmill of classes, right? So they have these 5-week classes and then boom, they're ready for their next class. They don't take any time to like celebrate the progress of each one or see a reward or any kind of manifestation of what this thing meant that we just did. So in creating these badges and creating a home space where they can hold all of their accomplishments, a board that shows their progress toward whatever goals they are, we think that that could be a form of motivation to keep going. The second thing that I think we lack, that I think we can do better, especially in this kind of space, is provide a space for networking. And the idea here is to really build communities around different topics, around different goals. And we hope that this will be a way that we can encourage that kind of person-to-person interaction as well. You can move now to either slide 5 or flex. Go ahead. Why don't you land right there? So
This is where you want to land.
that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think this slide is kind of I would call it it's basically just if you go back and look, if you want to look at the slide deck, this is kind of a summarization of what you just went through about the benefits of imagined communities in the virtual space, in a gamified space, and the effects on motivation, persistence, social cohesion, tracing the personal trajectory, and the impact on satisfaction, which then has that spillover effect into retention, which is what had brought the gamification as a path toward increasing retention to your attention in the first place.
If you move to the next one, I'll just share a little bit of a personal
Yeah,
experience.
right.
Yeah,
right.
so I earned my PhD at UCSD and at UCSD, University of California at San Diego. When you enroll as an undergraduate there, you have to choose a college. And these colleges people select end up being kind of a symbolic gesture that they share with others. So countless times when I was teaching classes or being a teaching assistant for a class and interacting with students, they ask each other like, what's your college, right? Because the college ends up being an identity marker. And so the colleges include things like Thurgood Marshall, the Supreme Court Justice, Robert Warren, who was a famous scientist that helped really build the institution there. So he's a famous person. And John Muir, the famous environmentalist. So interestingly, the Warren College actually focused on arts and humanities. And the idea was that they wanted to create colleges so that people could have a major, maybe in science or getting a degree toward, going into the medical field. But if they had interest in arts and humanities, they could join this Warren College and expand their network and take classes that expanded their universe, right? And so I think that is a good indicator that students can, if they can select these kind of like group identities, it can serve as a way to bond with others, to allow them to feel invested in a specific kind of community. So I feel like I saw this happen a little bit there. So I feel like it's something that could work in another space. And again, we don't have a lot of ways to do that here, at in this university setting. I will admit that I am not really a gamer, and so this is not something I have a ton of experience with, but younger people, I think, would really enjoy this. And I feel like there could be a way, maybe when students enroll, do we want to do you want to try the great gaming track? And it can invite them to this universe. And for people who get rewards from that kind of scenario, it could be a place that could be relatively cheap or I believe free, right, Stephanie? And she's going to talk a little bit more about how we could actually do this on a practical level.
Okay, so I just wanted to pause for a minute. Something that we had intended is that we wanted to make sure people had plenty of space to share ideas, feedback, make any comments, ask any questions before we move into sort of our vision for how you might go about doing such a thing at our institution. Did anybody have anything that they want to pop in with, or should we just barrel on?
I watched this in another presentation. Getting people to participate is a little like pulling teeth, unless you unless you set up a poll or something.
Oh, I didn't set up a poll. I just
I know,
wanted,
I'm just saying, I
like,
don't
if you
know.
have people feel free to yak, if it's a small space, it's not like you're in front of 50 people. If you want to yak, you can yak. It's okay. So I'll just move forward and I'll try to see if you have any suggestions or questions along the way here. So there we were. So what we did, because we were talking a lot about, well, how would this work? How would you do this? And the bottom line is trying to create a virtual online community, a gamified online community de novo, just seemed like something there's no way we would have bandwidth for. So turning to the youth in our lives, we said, hey, what about The Sims 4? There are paid and unpaid versions of the Sims 4 game. So I don't know how many people are aware of it. If you're around any person who is younger than you are, you probably have stumbled across this to some degree, whether or not you've actually played on the platform, watched over your shoulder, or somebody else has. It has a benefit of even for older students who may not play the game or have any experience with the game. Young people in their lives probably have experience, and this becomes one of these facets of multi-generational learning that is another form of engagement. So the decision to go with, quote, a kids game of sorts, not just kids, but young folks just play it, was deliberate, because it does extend that opportunity for people to learn together in a shared space that can bring in members of your family, friends, whatever, as you're doing your work. So the basic idea is that you start out by aligning academic goals to in-game events and challenges. Okay, so if you're talking about within a specific program, you could talk about your program learning outcomes. If we're talking about general education or workplace competencies, something broader then that could extend across disciplines and across levels from gen ed through to advanced degrees are defining competencies that are extensible beyond the classroom into the workplace, into people's community projects, into their lives. So what you do, you define your the learning goals, you map the goals to features that are already inside Sims 4. So they're life events, career progression, skills, challenges, these sorts of things. And you use the Sims 4 task structures to link to the outcomes you're trying to advance through these activities and projects. Then part of the sim structure also is that you get badged, you get rewards for achieving various tasks, meeting certain goals. So you start then by building virtual communities using Sims 4. So you think the question here that we wanted to pose is, how can you use in-game social tools? So you don't have to create the tools here. You basically look at what the Sims 4 has to offer in terms of social tools. And then you think, well, how do those tools connect to what you're trying to get students to do in terms of building a sense of community and support in the online environment? So what this does, it gives a space that you don't have to do all of the thinking about, oh, I need to come up with tools, I need to come up with modalities, I need to write code. No, you don't. This already exists in the free version of the game. And then being able to engage on a platform that's readily available is hopefully something that would encourage participation in it. So the next question is that an implementation. What happens when you implement a system like this? What happens when you get students to engage on the Sims 4 platform. You get them to engage with reward systems, badging. There are leaderboards that show up, and then this sense of being able to visually track your little avatar. You're in the virtual world. You earn rewards. You can mark milestones for your achievements, and then you can share them up on a board, right? That it's competitive, but it's what you might call healthy competition. It's a way to demonstrate to the people in your cohort who are aligned with your learning community how you're doing, and give a place for people to cheer each other's progress, and give each other a way of saying, look what I achieved via this course. It's not just that, oh, I got an A in this class. It's more a sense of these are skills, these are competencies, these are modes of thinking and doing that I am achieving in a social space where we can learn from each other and be supportive of each other. So the sense of having this visible progress that's not just visible inside your GPA or just inside your class when you're looking at a grade book, is kind of a share, right? It shows that you're willing to put your achievements out there, that you're willing to share what you're learning with others, and with the hopes that this supports the members of this virtual community. And then institutionally, on the institutional level, you can use some of this data to see how assessments in different programs are working. What are the competencies, what are the outcomes that keep on showing up that people are proud of, right? So from what people say they're proud of, you can kind of get a sense of what matters to them. By seeing what matters to them, you can make sure that the curriculum is aligned with what students want. So it's a reciprocal process of you offer material through a class. There's a virtual space where these achievements, these accomplishments are marked. And then you can go back from the instructional design side and say, is it working? Is it not working? And what can we do to give students more of what they find is truly valuable? So it's a way of putting a marker on value. So something that we thought about, and this is something where you all can think about in classes that you teach or that you want to design or that you want to put some input here, is how do you make those connections between gameplay inside Sims 4 and the academic concepts and life skills that we're trying to inculcate through the curriculum? So, can this be helpful for career development? Could this be used by career services? Could this be used as a part of a capstone class or in general education classes where you're trying to get people to collaborate and build collaborative critical thinking skills? Because when we look at what employers are looking for, it's not just a set of explicit skills like can do word processing. It's a way of thinking, right? We see over and over again that employers are looking for the ability to have emotional intelligence, critical thinking, collaborative capacity to work with others, social skills, right? Social skills are key to the delivery of many competencies that seem kind of dry, but there are social skills behind them. Especially in a world where you've got all this AI and you've got all this automation, social skills are still really important. And a place where people can practice these social skills is inside a gamified space. I wanted to pause here. Any ideas, thoughts, comments anybody has?
They're symbolically participating.
Thank you for symbolically. If everyone switched to your avatar now, I think that would be appropriate, right?
If we would have
Okay.
made this into a game, they would have done it more.
Yeah, we should have. Well, you know what? There's always next time. So this goes back, the step 5, the monitoring. This is the last point I was suggesting, and that we can look at analytics from within the games to try to improve what we're doing as instructors, as an institution. And it sort of, you can look at it institution wide and really have a big scale, but you can also think about it as a pilot where you put this into one gen ed class, for example, or into a couple of different classes, maybe not go university wide right from the get-go, but you have a pilot program and that allows you to have a manageable data set where you try to figure out where the sticking points are, where students are struggling, where they are flourishing, and try to look at, assess the patterns from these data sets to see how you can tweak the game a little bit. You can change some of the parameters. You can encourage students to go participate in the game at certain checkpoints in a course. Just say, hey, don't forget, go hop into The Sims and check out the leaderboard. What can you add to your skill set this week? So you can use it interactively within the classroom to be monitoring student progress, and also to tweak it a little bit to get some more participation on the level where you think students are struggling, and be able to give them support in real time. Okay, so you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, first of all, I should have come up with a poll here. Do any of you guys, have you ever even played The Sims 4? Do you know what it is? Or are we just going, beep, 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 don't even know what you're talking about? We'll raise a hands here. Anybody? Anyone? Anyone? Any Sims knowledge here?
Kimberly says she has not. There have been no other replies.
No replies.
Cole is
Okay.
vaguely familiar.
Vaguely familiar. Cole's gonna.
I'm going to guess that the absence of replies means that people have not used
Okay,
the.
so here's the thing. If there, go look at it, maybe, maybe take a look at it after this. Because it's actually, I'm going to tell you, I'm not a gamer, never have been, just because most games I find spatially nauseating. They tend to be too loud. They tend to be too rapid fire. I like the kind of games that are really pretty and you float through like this rural thing and it's just kind of gentle. I can do that sort of thing, but things that are like action and shooting things and all that, I'm like, okay, I'm sick to my stomach. I can't do this. It's too loud. And
Were you talking about Harvest Moon when you were talking about floating through space?
I like floating through space. Okay, that's fine. It's very relaxing. If I have to do something that I just get stressed. I get all agitated. But Sims is fairly straightforward when you're just working with the free version. So there's a free version and a paid version. So I'm going to look at right now, just quick lead you through a brief overview of the free version and aspects of the free version that could work as an education tool. Okay, so the first thing is you could hypothetically create a study group, and that's using what's called the base game. You can buy different components and stuff like that, but you don't have to. You can use, and you can look at, you could go to a library, you could go to a museum, you could go to a park, and you form friend groups. Then you choose from approved educational group activities. So what's nice about the base game and the study group settings is that you can control what activities go on. So like making out in the library is not an approved group activity. Okay, so we're not doing that. So you host activities at the chosen space that then give access to educational objects that are defined within the game. Okay, so basically you can define a lot of the parameters inside a study group to make sure it stays on track and doesn't spin off into something really wild and unanticipated, sort of. The other thing is there's a second method you could use, and that's a learning club using a feature called Get Together. So you open the club panel, you create a new club, and then you define educational goals within the club. So here's another place where you can have, in fact, I would say that using Get Together allows you more opportunity to define parameters. And I would personally, I think method 2 is better. So you can set approved and banned activities. So you can ban bullying and things that are nastiness. You can things that you're not allowed to be doing. And then you choose specific meeting spots. Again, go back to that museum setting, a park, pretty much anywhere you would like to create a learning space. And then members are join according to the skills or traits that they want to work on. Once you join a learning club, a formal learning club, you are automatically controlled by the club rules during gatherings to make sure you stay with approved activities. So this is a little more structured. It's not totally amorphous, but it structures community building, accountability, participation in a way that keeps things from going completely off the rails. So if I were to set up a pilot using The Sims 4, I would probably recommend going with creating a formal learning club using Get Together. From the experiments I've done with it, this is the way to go. Then as you want to get a little fancier here, there are club perks. So there's the clubs panel. You can tell people to come join a gathering. You can encourage people to do an activity, and then you earn points. And with the points, you unlock further benefits and other elements of the gamification platform that help you continue to strengthen your social interactions. So it's a reward cycle, right? You're invited to participate in an activity based on your interests and what kind of competencies you'd like to develop. As you participate in it, you enhance your skill levels at that point. You get a reward, and then you get more goodies, more things that you can do inside the game as you earn perks. Okay, so here's just a little summary here that I'd like to kind of wrap things up to leave any time for conversation or comments. This is just what can we do with this? Is it something that appeals to people? If you wanted to advocate to include something like using the Sims 4 platform in an institutional setting, what would be your talking points? What are things that you would want other people to understand can be achieved by using Sims 4 gamification as a way to build community? So I would say this would be your little cheat sheet talking points slide if you wanted to discuss this with anyone else, if you wanted to put it on the radar as something you would like to put into a grant proposal, or that you'd like to bring to the attention of other people you work with. These are some of the bennies, right? So these are points that you could bring up. You can think through how this gamification strategy could enhance your objectives depending on your role. Pause again. Comments, questions, complaints? You can complain too. That's okay. We're big girls. We can handle it.
I can offer something just super briefly if you don't mind me just coming off camera or on camera and off of mute. So we've something that I've looked at, kind of over the years in my, kind of survey of the academic technology landscape and things like this is kind of these various ways that some, either third-party platforms or sometimes other institutions kind of gamify the discussion board experience. So for example, we ran a pilot last year with with a third-party platform called Yellow Dig, where they do take an approach where it's more of a gamified approach, where there are different ways that you can earn your points for the week, as opposed to you post and reply twice. No, you need like 1,500 points, and these are the different ways you can do it. So there's cool things and we did get, some positive feedback from students, in that regard, that and it was kind of a split, decision in some ways. Like some students really like that, and some students were like, "Hey, I don't do social media, I don't do games, not really my thing." So some really, really liked that new way of engagement, and some didn't. And I love your example of The Sims because from what I do remember of it, it is kind of a perfect kind of like augmented reality type scenario where like yes, you accomplish these tasks and then you can pick new pants for your character. You can do like these silly little things, but it's a cool representation and it builds these little goals. So I mean, when you incorporate that into learning, some students really, really do like that, and especially those that have had, those that have been into gaming over the years, 100%, or those that play RPGs or other games that encourage things like that. They already have that, in their brain, so it's a way to play and learn. It's really, really impactful. And I've seen another couple of schools that did. I've seen the poster a couple times, and I'll botch the actual name, but they kind of set up like a discussion forum hero type scenario where like everybody has a power, and then you kind of like have this persona that you take on, where it's kind of a role playing in not where you necessarily earn points, where you're playing a role, you're playing the protagonist or the antagonist, which is also kind of a cool way to approach it. So just a couple of thoughts. So much out there, and it's really, but it's I think that the hard part is like how do you actually do it? How do you actually get it in the classroom and make it meaningful and make it work and work out the bugs? And it takes a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
To be honest,
And
so
which is
just
kind
my
of
quick.
why you see that we didn't do that yet because this was
A lot.
um this is more of this presentation, a lot of this is a thought piece, right? This is us thinking out loud and sharing with other people, before we invest more time and try to get some institutional buy-in. Well, what do people think? Have other people had experiences with this that we haven't heard about because it never got off the ground, or it got off the ground and it crashed and burned. I've personally put text-based RPGs using AI into classes where they're scenario-based. It throws students, for example, into the middle of the 14th century in the plague. So, just for fun. So, and students I've gotten some pretty good feedback on that. But this was a way to sort of make something that would be portable, that doesn't just exist in one class, that students could continue to build with across the curriculum. So it would have to be it could be linked into a course, the reminders to go hop into the Sims or whatever and do your Sim thing. But it would have, I think, to have that sort of integrated quality of building across one's degree program, you would have to have it outside yet connected, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in my mind, if I lived in a universe where this was possible, students could choose like a gamification track or no gamification track. And their courses, maybe when they start the course, they click a little button and then like some little things are built in. I know that's unlikely to happen, but like that's the way I think it'd be most likely to occur. Because I don't think we could get everyone to just buy in and say, in this class. I mean, I guess they could sign up at some point and then they'd be on a list and then they could just be sent automated emails every 5 weeks saying, hey, go report on some of the progress that you've made in this class. I mean, one of the things that is a persistent complaint or, one of the things that is not a part of online learning is that community building element, though. Some people here, like there's a lot of people here who are so overwhelmed by their own lives and personal responsibilities that they don't care. They have enough of a social connection that for others, I think that it could be meaningful and a way to keep them motivated and to keep going. But I don't think that's true for all of our students. And so I wouldn't want to like put this on all of our students. So we'd have to figure out a way to design it that would allow it. And I think, Cole, your little experiment is probably perfect. Probably like half the students would really like it and half would be like, I've got too much going in my life already. I don't need to play little games like this, right? So probably some of that is based on age and where people are in their lives, and some is just, personality types and what kinds of things you know turn
Yeah,
people
I
on.
don't think it's something you could make mandatory. It would
No.
definitely a buy-in thing. But just what I've seen is just sort of like the attempts at creating community, like the cafe and stuff like that. People never post there. You got to make it a little more fun, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So this was a way to sort of take, like I said, an extant game that a lot of people are familiar with, that you can kind of set up parameters for, so it doesn't go totally off the rails, you know? Like you're not going to have, there's a UA class, a World Civ class that they use teaching Civilization, the computer, you know, the game. So, but it's got certain parameters built into it for the classroom use. But yeah,
So you have a class that has that kind of built in. You mentioned that you just had like one little interactive assignment where they went through the RPG.
yeah, I've put interactive, I've designed the art, you know, I've taken the script, I say, here, plug this script into Chat GPT. And it's got 10 turns already, and in 10 turns you're done. And then the output of the RPG is then tied to an activity inside a journal. I've had another kind of an RPG, a simulation where in another class where students go and they have a conversation that is sort of partially pre-scripted with the figure of their choice associated with the scientific revolution. And then that's used as just like a piece of an assignment, basically. So, and I have role-playing games that I've written into other courses where you're a merchant on the Silk Road, or, you know, you're an advisor to an emperor or something like that. But I mean, I think those they tend to work pretty well, actually.
Right. I can see, you know, like that feels very relevant and like very specific to like a history class. Like I'm trying to figure out how I could do something similar to that in my persuasion
Scenario
class.
build. You can scenario build. You can build scenarios.
Right. Well, I have to talk to you more on this side about that.
Okay, so I think we're about ready to, I think we're at time here. We're at 11:57.
10:57.
So here's our little closing slide. Look at those little hats flying up. So just our little return back to where we started, that imagined communities are a way to bridge the isolation of the asynchronous online environment, and that personal successes can be united for a sense of collective success using these digital identities as markers of achievement. So with that, I want to thank you for listening to our thoughts on this topic. If you didn't have anything to talk about with us right now, but have thoughts that you'd like to share later down the line, by all means, get in touch. We will share the slide deck. We didn't post it yet, but we'll share the slide deck, or you can contact either one of us for the slide deck if you want. And I'll leave a final moment to Cheri for her to finish up too.
I think that this could really be meaningful for some students. You know, I still like don't think it would be for everyone, but if we could at least give them a space to pursue this, it could help some people have a more meaningful experience here. And I really think, honestly, the most important thing for me is the networking part. The if there's a space where people can interact with others and it's pitched in those terms, right? This can actually, and like you said, also practicing soft skills and finding a community. A lot of people go to college and end up, the most important thing they got out of that degree was all the people they met. The stuff they learn is important, but the people they met and the networks they were able to create are what really got their careers going. As I think you can speak to, Stephanie, with the people that your daughter is meeting in her college experience. So I just think that that's the way, you know, in terms of like pitching a reward for participating in this type of universe, that could maybe be a way to get buy-in is, you know, this is something that we need to work on, I think, as an institution, and this might be a way to solve that problem. So that's what I would leave you all with as a final note.
And time.
Thank you. All right. Thank you,
All right.
Stephanie.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.